Is Tate controlled by Jews? As Andrew Tate's former head of sales and marketing from 2021 to 2023, I have been keeping my mouth shut for far too long. It's time to reveal the dark truth. The short answer is that Tate was irreversibly compromised sometime in January of 2023. And what that means is he accepted an offer with the elites that he simply could not refuse. Now, obviously it's a lot more complicated than that, so I'll explain as succinctly as possible. First, you must understand how the elites recruit. And why I say elites is because it's not just the Jews who control everything. Although they are a large part of the elites, it goes far beyond that. So the elites have three main criteria when selecting who they recruit: wealth, power, and pedigree. Wealth is easy to understand. This is measured by your net worth, liquid and assets. And power simply means your ability to influence people to do what you want. Now, Tate was certainly not wealthy enough to be recruited. You need to have at least a $3 to $5 billion net worth to be recruited on wealth alone. Until then, you're literally a peasant in the eyes of the elite. But he was famous and influential enough. And he also had something arguably even more important: pedigree. Because you need to understand something that most people don't know about Tate's background. His father, Emory Tate, was literally in the CIA. That's right, the Central Intelligence Agency.
My father, when he died, someone messaged me who was in, because my father was in the CIA.
Officially, Emory Tate was just a chess master and linguist, but behind the scenes, he was grooming his son Andrew from day one to possess the psychological warfare and persuasion tactics which allowed him to become world famous. So Andrew Tate wasn't just some random kickboxer who got famous online. He was the son of an elite CIA operative, which means the elites had been watching his family for decades already. They knew exactly who he was long before he became famous. And by September of 2022, when he became the most Googled and famous man on the planet, they already had a file on him. They already knew his weaknesses. They already knew how to control him. The time was finally ripe for the elites to begin preparing their move to recruit him. When the elites recruit someone, first of all, they analyze their target. What are their strengths and weaknesses? Tate's strengths were that he was a fantastic orator, funny, an amazing marketer, and salesman. His weaknesses were that he was a psychopath incentivized by power and fame, with many skeletons in his closet. Weaknesses mean that someone is easier to control, and they would use these weaknesses against him later. But this is not usually their first plan of attack. Usually it goes like this. First, they ask you to join their side nicely by giving you a promise of unlimited wealth and power, anything your heart could ever desire. And you have to really try and wrap your head around what anything really means. You want a fleet of jets and mega yachts? Consider it yours. You want 72 virgins in this life? Done. You want complete financial and political immunity worldwide? Easy. Anything your heart desires is yours. But you must sign your soul away to the elites and do as they tell you. Most people are lacking in one or more major areas of life, so they accept this deal. Because in principle, everyone would reject this deal if it weren't for the benefits that you receive. But Tate didn't have desire for the things the elites offered. He believed he could acquire all that he was missing himself. So the elites moved on to step 2 of their plan to get you to bend, which is to convince everyone around you that you're an evil outcast not to be interacted with. They use media attacks and propaganda. Propaganda is always the elite's first tool of force because they are masters of manipulation. They use it to decide elections because even though your vote does not matter and the winning candidate has already been chosen, it is always better if they can get the people to vote in their chosen candidate through the use of propaganda. It just makes things much smoother if they can get the people to happily agree. They can always rig elections if propaganda somehow fails, because why would they leave the fate of trillions of dollars through political policy to chance? They would not. They would ensure their political candidate wins. But in the case of Tate, it's not an election that they could rig. So they had to win the hearts and the minds of people against him. Except the propaganda failed because Tate had built up too much positive brand equity, impacting many lives positively. So the elites moved on to step 3, which is to restrict you financially and technologically. They froze Tate's bank accounts, banned him on social media, revoked his payment processors, banned him from all major applications, all at once. But that also didn't work, because he had money hidden in many places under different unlinked identities and an army of affiliates reposting his content on unlimited social media accounts. I would know. My team generated 99% of his traffic. So then the elites moved on to step 4, which was to attack him using his weaknesses and skeletons in his closet. It is no secret that Tate had adult business ventures in the webcam and OnlyFans spaces, but what is not well known is that the methods he used to recruit and manage the girls were by legal definition a form of human trafficking, and when doing it in collusion with others, organized crime. The loverboy method of recruiting innocent girls, making them fall in love with you, and then removing their access to finances, documents, and social connections to ultimately force them into adult work is, by legal definition, human trafficking. Now, if Tate had stayed low-key doing this, nobody would have ever heard about this or cared, because the law only enforces what is a matter of public and financial importance to them first. But Tate was very vocal about his adult industries ventures, so it was the skeleton in the closet the elites focused on first, which is what led them to pin him on human trafficking and organized crime charges. Were they bullshit charges? No. Was the Matrix after him? Absolutely. It's important to understand this distinction. Now, all of this happened in January 2023, and essentially, they made him to understand that he would go to jail forever and destroy his life if he did not agree to their plan for him. Their plan for Tate, in short, was to keep him as a voice of controlled opposition to the mainstream, so he could rally the masculine youth, radicalizing them to incite chaos and unrest, while pretending to be fighting the Matrix, and doing it so well that he literally jokes about selling out to the Matrix in order to deflect from the fact that he is already sold out to the Matrix. Remember, these are master manipulators playing with your brain. You have to see past what they are saying at face value. And if you need proof of this controlled opposition setup, let me reveal something to you that will blow your mind. Who do you think was really running the war room? Tate's exclusive men's networking group that was supposedly designed to help men escape the Matrix. It was run by a man named Iggy Semmelweis, also known as Miles Sunken, a Zionist Jew. The supposedly anti-Matrix group that Tate was selling as the path to masculine freedom was being run behind the scenes by someone with direct ties to the very power structure Tate claimed to be fighting against. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't just a random hire. This was strategic placement by the elites. Iggy himself was friends with Tate's father for many years. He was a master hypnotist, NLP practitioner, and the best pickup artist in the world. And I will tell you a personal anecdote from having met Iggy in person as well. He is hands down the most interesting and charismatic person I have ever met in my life. He spoke to us for 8 hours, and it seemed like only 1 hour passed. That's how captivating he was. When he speaks to multiple people, his words literally bounce off people in the perfect moments of emphasis individually for each person. When he looks at you, he visually creates a tunnel between you and him. All else around you fades to black. It is just you and him sharing a moment. He is truly magic, and he played a large role in grooming Tate to become the communication master he turned into. The elites made sure that people like Iggy were embedded into the infrastructure of the Tate operation from the inside, so he could more effectively carry out the elites' plan of making him a controlled opposition. But an even more sinister plan the elites had for Tate was to keep him selling people hope that they could have a better life by escaping the Matrix, when this is absolutely not possible for 99% of people. 99% of people are doomed to be peasants for all eternity. Most people, even if you try to wake them up, are literally incapable of being woken up. In fact, most of you watching this right now are NPCs doomed to eternal serfdom. This is simply the brutal reality that all smart people in the world know to be true. This is evidenced by the fact that while the real world is a truly fantastic online money education platform, for every one success story, there are 1,000 failures. This is not the fault of the real world at all. This is simply that these people were never going to make it as entrepreneurs, no matter what they did. They literally have poor blood. The only real hope they had was going to university or trade school, following the proven path, and getting a decent job. Selling them false hope that everyone could escape the Matrix and be financially free is a straight lie. It wastes people's time, brings people turmoil to their lives, and financially stunts them for years, which is exactly what the elites want in order to make the population easier to control. And speaking of the real world, let me tell you who was actually running it behind the scenes. It was a guy called Ace, who was actually an Israeli national and one of the original members of the war room. I won't reveal his real identity, but here's what you need to know. Tate himself made a Freudian slip about an Israeli tech team running the real world on a recent podcast.
These things get attached to my name. It's very inconvenient for me. I have Jewish business partners. I have tech teams in Israel. I have things going on, and I get a mess from this crap too.
He accidentally mentioned him, then quickly tried to move on. But we all heard it. So let's connect the dots here. A Zionist Jew named Miles Sunken running the war room, an Israeli national running the behind the scenes of the real world. Both operations designed to help men escape the matrix. Do you see the pattern now? The elites didn't just threaten Tate into compliance, they embedded their people into his entire operation. So basically, Tate had no choice but to agree to their plan from him. And he proceeded to heavily censor his message. He stopped being so raw and talking so explicitly about truths of the universe, such as things to do with woman, energy, aura, psychology, sales, marketing, and finances, and he purely focused on generic motivation, masculinity, business, and relationship content. Now, of course, the elites also love to humiliate people, so they weren't gonna let Tate off the hook just like that. They made him spend time in jail and did damage to the Cobra Tate brand we had so carefully curated. But Tate did not want to just accept this outcome. He still had the rebellious spirit inside of him, so he kept fighting the Matrix, trying to counter-propaganda the charges against him. And he was quite successful of this for a while. I would know because I was helping to orchestrate these efforts behind the scenes before I learned the truth about his charges and quit the Cobra Tate operation upon receiving very good legal advice in June of 2023. That is a story for another video. Anyways, the elites knew Tate's weaknesses and now it was time to use them against him. One of the biggest weaknesses that he had is that he is a psychopath, a remorseless liar, and a snake. I am not mincing my words. When I told you all about this 3 years ago, very few of you believed me. But since then, Tate has snaked his own friends in Miami and totally folded and apologized for playing Kanye's Heil Hitler song, completely going back on his stance of loyalty to his friends and fighting the Matrix. He has launched multiple crypto scam coins, which have gone to zero, completely going against his previous stance of claiming to never launch a crypto coin ever. He pretended to be Muslim in order to gain favor in the UAE, and he was found drinking, smoking, gambling, dating different women, and even denouncing the Muslim community on occasions, completely being haram and going against the Islamic faith. Tate was forced into revealing his true character in these instances because the elites designed these public situations for that to happen. Losing favor with the elites because of an anti-Jew song led him to snake his friends. Getting bank accounts frozen, massive legal fees, and suffering big drops in the real-world revenue led him to launch crypto scam coins, which meant the previous promise to never do that was a lie. And the fake Muslim shtick folded ultimately because he didn't want to upset the Jews by supporting the Hamas in Palestine too heavily. In all those cases, and there are many more to be clear, such as when Tate got destroyed by Chase the Moor, and then made excuses that he was 10 years out and too old, and if he didn't get tired, he would have won. First of all, it goes completely against everything he preaches about never making excuses and understanding life is binary. You either win or lose, no in between. And also, it's a lie that he was 10 years out. He was only 5 years out, and he's not too old. Alexander Usyk is literally 39, and he's a heavyweight champion in actual boxing, professional boxing, not just celebrity promotion like Misfits. Those are all just some of the lies from Tate, and those are cases when his true character showed through, because true character is only revealed under pressure. The elites knew this about his character and took full advantage of his weaknesses to further damage his brand and credibility, because they knew the biggest damage they could do to his brand could only come from his own actions, which they orchestrated. Was Tate complying more and more heavily with the elites at this point already? Yes, but the way the elites work is that if you throw a rock at them, they will launch a rocket missile at you and bulldoze your entire house. They have no honor, and they love humiliating those who step out of line. They are loyal only to power and control. Now, you might be asking yourself, well, how did Tate get into this position in the first place? Training from his CIA father, training from Iggy, a Zionist master manipulator, and years of his own hard work building his skills. But here's what you need to understand. The reason I know all this is because I was there. Me and my team were behind the scenes during his entire meteoric rise. We saw the infrastructure, we saw who was really running things, we saw who pulled the strings, and when we realized what was happening, we got out. Not because we're heroes, but because we're not idiots. The elites don't just control people at the top, they control the entire ladder. Every rung you climb, they're watching. Every milestone you hit, they're evaluating. Every bit of success you accumulate, they're deciding whether you're useful or not. And if you become too useful, you become controlled. That's the game. You either stay small and stay free, or you grow big and become theirs. There is no in between. So what's the answer? Build your brand, make your money, and live your life. But never, ever let yourself become too big that you matter to them. Stay under $1 to $3 billion net worth, stay off the radar, and stay free. I'll be sharing more truths here on our YouTube channel at Cloud Profit and hosting weekly live calls on our Telegram channel at t.me/cloudprofit until March 29 of 2026 when I shut everything down. I'll be sharing the same psychological warfare tactics that Tate's CIA father taught him, the same hypnotic influence techniques that Iggy Semmelweis used, and the same marketing systems that built a 9-figure operation. Because someone has to teach you how this game really works, and clearly, it won't be Tate.